glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
All glories to the lotus feet of Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Glories to you. Narayana namaskritya narom chevam narottamam devim saraswati vyasam tato jayam udirayat nasta prayusva bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavata uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naistaki om namo bhagavate vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Hare Krishna. Good morning to everyone on Zoom program this morning. The text is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 13. So I'm going to read the text 3 times, and then anyone who wants to repeat Srimad Bhagavatam text may do so at that time. Hare Krishna. Ashtami meru devyam tu nabhe jata urukrama dasayam vatma dhiranam sarva shrama namaskritam. Ashtami meru devyam tu nabhe jata urukrama dasayan vatma dhiranam sarva shrama namaskritam. Astame meru devyam tu nabhe jata urukrama dasayan vatma dhiranam sarva shrama namaskritam. Hare Krishna. You may chant if you want to.
Hare Krishna. Ashtame meru devyam tu nabhirjata urukramaha darshayan vartam dhiranam sarvashrama namaskritam.
Ashtame mirya devyam tu nabirjata urukrama darshan vartma dhiranam sarvastaram namaskritam.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Ashtame meru devyam to nabher jata utkarmaha darsayan darsayan vartama dhiranam sarvasram namaskritamaha.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ashtamaru devayam tu nabhir jata urukrama darshayan vartma dharanam sarvashram namaskritam. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ashtame meru devyatum narpe jata urukrama.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ashtame meru devyam tu nabhirjaturu kramaha darshayana vatrama dhiranam sarvashmanamaskritam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Ashtame meru divyantu nabhirjata urukrama darshayan vartmadhiranam sarvashrama namaskritam.
अष्टमे मेरुदेव्यं तु नाभिर्जात उरुक्रमा दर्शयन् वर्त्मधीराणां सर्वश्रम नमस्कृतम्.
Okay. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Astame meru devyam tu navirjata urukramaha darshayan varmadrina nam sarva shrama namaskritam. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Astami mirudevyam tu navirjata urukrama darshayan vartma dhiranam sarvasrama namaskritam.
Anyone else? Okay. So we do the word for word. Astame, the 8th of the incarnations. Meru Devyam tu, in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of Nabhe, King Nabhi. Jata took birth. Urukrama, the all-powerful Lord. Dashayan, by showing. Vatma, the way. Dhiranam, of perfect beings. Sarva, all. Ashama, orders of life. Namaskritam, honored by. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The 8th incarnation was King Rishabha, son of King Nabhi and his wife Meru Devi. In this incarnation, the Lord showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses and who are honored by all orders of life. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The society of human beings is naturally divided into 8 by orders and statuses of life. The 4 divisions of occupation and 4 divisions of cultural advancement. The intelligent class, the administrative class, the productive class, and the laborer class are the 4 divisions of occupation. And the student life, the householder life, the retired life, and renounced life are the 4 statuses of cultural advancement towards the path of spiritual realization. Out of these, the renounced order of life, or the order of sannyas, is considered the highest of all, and the sannyasi is constitutionally the spiritual master for all the orders and divisions. In the sannyas order, also, there are 4 stages of upliftment towards perfection. These stages are Kutichak, Bahudak, Parivrajakacharya, and Paramhamsa. The Paramhamsa stage of life is the highest stage of perfection. This order of life is respected by all others. Maharaj Rishabha, the son of King Nabhi and Meru Devi, was an incarnation of the Lord, and he instructed his sons to follow the path of perfection by tapasya, which sanctifies one's existence, enables one to attain the stage of spiritual happiness, which is eternal and ever increasing. Every living being is searching after happiness, but no one knows where eternal and unlimited happiness is obtainable. Foolish men seek after material sense pleasure as a substitute for real happiness. But such foolish men forget that temporary so-called happiness derived from sense pleasures is also enjoyed by the dogs and hogs. No animal, bird, or beast is bereft of this sense pleasure. In every species of life, including the human form of life, such happiness is immensely obtainable. The human form of life, however, is not meant for such cheap happiness. The human life is meant for attaining eternal and unlimited happiness by spiritual realization. This spiritual realization is obtained by tapasya, or undergoing voluntarily the path of penance, and abstinence from material pleasure. Those who have been trained for abstinence in material pleasures are called dhira, or men undisturbed by the senses. Only these dhiras can accept the orders of sannyas, and they can gradually rise to the status of the Paramhamsa, which is adored by all members of society. King Rishabha propagated this mission, and at the last stage, he became completely aloof from the material bodily needs, which is a rare stage not to be imitated by foolish men, but to be worshipped by all. Om Gnati Mirandasya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadanti Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shcha Shri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sa Advaitam Sa Avadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Shcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhi Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sundibhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimadi Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirveshesha Sunyabhari Paschatya Deshacharini Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachise Namaha Anandali Namaya Vigrahaya Imabhya Divacha Vishnudaraya Tasmi Mahaprema Raspadaya Sri Chaitanya Chandaya Namo Namaste 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 Hare Krishna. So the English translation of the text is: the eighth incarnation was King Rishabha, the son of King Nabi and his wife Mary Devi. In this incarnation, the Lord showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses and who are honored by all orders of life. Hare Krishna. So, this is the chapter that the incarnations of the Lord are being described. And we are in the incarnation where Rishabhadev, King Rishabha, son of King Nabi and his wife Mary Devi, is focused on or highlighted. So in this incarnation, the Lord, he showed the path of perfection, as is being said here, Shukadeva Goswami describing. The path of perfection, which is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses. Now, isn't that what we're trying to do, trying to control our senses in this path of, this royal path of devotion? Now, I smiled a little bit because I was actually laughing at myself. So don't think that I was doing that to get at anybody. Sense control is very important. Now, the reason I was laughing at myself was Maya is also always present to make sure that you're really controlling your senses or you're not. Maya seems to be working against us, but Maya really, according to what's been explained to me, Maya is actually testing us. So you say you want to be a devotee. Really? Okay. You have this, you have that, you have that. Try to work on that. Maya is actually, in many ways, on our side. But the way she acts makes it seem like she's against us. She's on our side because If she points out some things that we're doing wrong and we work on it, then we improve and get closer to a situation where we fully control our senses. After all, as Gogovina Maharaj explained in one lecture, there is dharma. The dharma for water, see the Prabhupada has explained that also, is that it's liquid. Under extreme circumstances of temperature and pressure, it may change to steam. High temperature, it may change to ice. Low temperature, those happens. But normally, water is liquid. We also need it very much for sustenance of this material body. Now, then Gogovina Maharaj went and said, but the body also has dharma. The mind also has dharma, and the soul has dharma. So then he proceeded to explain. What is the dharma of the body? Well, the senses are with the body. And a good bit of it is in our face. Our eyes are there. Our nose is there. Those are all senses that we use. Ears are also there. The tongue vibrates. A good bit of it is in the face area, or in the head, I should say. So the senses are connected to the body. So the dharma of the body, according to what Gogovina Maharaj explained, now not for devotees, just generally, people want to satisfy their senses. And the translation here says, the path of perfection showed by King Rishabhadev is followed by those who have fully controlled their senses. Therefore, we should be on the path towards controlling the senses. Our senses, that is. So, the dharma for the physical body is sense gratification. So to follow this path set by Maharaj Rishabha, the path of perfection, we have to control the senses so that the senses can be used in serving the Lord rather than it be used to do anything for satisfying the body. The body is there. I want some happiness. Obviously, we're not, as we've heard, we're not the body, we're the soul. But the soul, one of the soul's qualities is Ananda. And since we can't have Ananda directly, especially if we're conditioned souls wanting to be happy and quickly happy, we tend to go for sense gratification. So that's the dharma for the body, sense gratification. Then Gogovina Maharaj continued. The dharma for the mind, accepting and rejecting what comes. This one I'll take, this one I will not take. Therefore, or this one I'll do with my senses, this one I will not do. When the mind says yes, then the senses get satisfied. The mind says no, and if it involves the senses cannot. So the way it is the dharma for the mind, accepting and rejecting what comes. Now, so what do? We should accept according to what Rupa Goswami has said. Accept things favorable for devotional service and reject things unfavorable. That way the mind is controlled. The intelligence, well, helps us very much accepting and rejecting based on those of us that are fortunate enough to hear about Bhakti Yoga, and we try to live our life according to that. Then the dharma of the soul. That's the one that we've forgotten, but that's what Srila Prabhupada spends so much time to tell us. The dharma of the soul is to serve Krishna. That is the natural way of the soul becoming happy. If we do not serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to his instructions and the instructions of a spiritual master, we will never be truly happy. It won't work. So just like the dharma for water is naturally liquid, the dharma for sugar is that it's sweet, the dharma of the soul is you serve Krishna. In other words, whether we like it or not, this is how Krishna has set it up. You serve him, you're happy. You don't serve him, you won't be happy. So it's like, this is like in our faces. We try any other means, won't work. Because the nature of the soul, Dham was saying the nature of the soul is to serve Krishna. So Maharaj made it clear, Gopal Maharaj made it clear in that lecture, is you're not going anywhere towards happiness unless you serve Krishna, according to his instructions. So when Krishna says serve the devotees, you serve the devotees. So Prabhupada says serve the devotees, you serve the devotees. Offer obeisances, you do that. Krishna says, Man mana bhakto, mam yaji mam namaskuru. He says, always think of me. So you think of him, then you'll be happy. Become my devotee. You become a devotee of Krishna, you will be happy. Now just take a look around at everybody that's not a devotee in this world now. They're trying to be happy. Are they succeeding? You could literally laugh at them. It doesn't work. It doesn't work because anxiety never leaves a conditioned soul. But a devotee has the way to get out of anxiety. The chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, Lord Chaitanya has said, the Lord's energies have all been invested in there. So if you connect your heart to it and chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Repeatedly chant. Always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna says, always think of me. One of the easiest ways to think of the Lord is to chant his holy name. Or at home, to have one of the devices, sound devices, always coming up with the chanting of the Lord's name. Srila Prabhupada, so many videos are there now. You can just connect on YouTube and you just click and here comes the sound. Srila Prabhupada, pure devotee of the Lord chanting the holy name. So that is easy to remember Krishna that way. Of course, there are other ways too. They could watch movies that are Krishna conscious movies, kirtan, bhajan, you yourself chanting, japa, all of that helps us to remember. So remember Krishna. Then he says, to man mana bhava matbhak, to become my devotee, worship me and offer obeisances to me. Srila Prabhupada in one lecture stressed this. He says, you have not been reading Bhagavad Gita? Somebody asked this, how long, this is the answer to the question, how long does it take for someone to become Krishna conscious? Krishna conscious. So Prabhupada opened his eyes and said, in 1 minute. You haven't been reading Bhagavad Gita? Then he quoted this. Man mana bhava mat bhakto, mam yaji mam namaskuru. Krishna says, if you do that, I promise you, your dear friend, you will come to me. Well, now, if you think of Krishna, he says, at the time that you're leaving, your mind is on Krishna. Whatever your mind is on, that's the next body you go to. So if you ask, all right, the time has come, and I'm thinking of Krishna, well, then I'm going to Krishna. What has been explained, though, is what you tend to think about the most at the time of death is what you think of the most when you're living is what's most likely going to come to your mind at the time of death. That's why it's so important to stress for myself, my own purification, and also for everybody that the holy name has to be followed and followed and followed and followed and followed. Live our life following the holy name. And then from doing that, Krishna will give us the mercy to put us in situations where we'll begin to understand what it is like to control the senses. So, Maharaj Yashava, king of Nabi, son of King Nabi, son of King Nabi, and his wife, Mary Devi. So, he showed the path to perfection. And he says, fully control your senses. Those who are fully control their senses, they are in the path of perfection. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, society of human beings is naturally divided into 8 by orders of statuses of life. 4 divisions of occupation, 4 divisions of cultural advancement. So we've heard this: intelligent class, Brahman, the administrative class, Kshatriya, productive class, Vaishya, and the labor class or employees, Shudra. Student life, Brahmacharya, Mm. The household life, Grihasta, retired life, Vanaprastha, and renounced life, Sannyas. Mm. And Srila Prabhupada says, out of these, the renounced order of life, or the order of sannyas, is considered the highest of all. Now, Guru Maharaj put it this way, Bhakti Maharaj. Sannyas is the most spiritual. Why? Because 100% of their lives is devoted to Krishna consciousness, to the nature of that particular ashram. It lends itself to always thinking about Krishna, doing things for Krishna, for Guru, for devotees. And sannyasis also have their gurus, remember? So this is always a parampara system. So, and Srila Prabhupada talked a little bit about the sannyas order. There's Kutichak, Bahudak, Paribhatikacharya, and Paramhamsa. So we'll go through that maybe quickly. Kutichak is when someone starts the sannyas order, and they may be from Grihasta, had a wife, and then they take sannyas, but they don't leave too far away, or they don't live too far away from home. They are at the point where the wife can still care for the husband, especially bringing prasadam and so on. That's Kutichak. Bahudak is when that part of the service of the wife stops, and the person now can go from door to door to ask for alms and sustain themselves that way. Paribhajakacharya and Paramahamsa, Paribhajakacharya especially, we see most sannyasis do that. They're the ones that travel and preach. Paribhajakacharya, travel and preaching. Paramahamsa is the highest stage. The Prabhupada has talked about that. It's also explained that Paramahamsa usually they settle and they write about Krishna, just like the six Goswamis, after they heard from Rupa and Sanatana Goswami heard from Lord Chaitanya. They wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote so many books. Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, all of those things benefit us wonderfully. So the travel and the Paramhamsa. So then in the Prema Dvani's prayers, we talked about Jayam Vishnupad, Paramhamsa Paribhajakacharya, Srila Prabhupada. Like that. So this order of life is respected by all others. So Maharaj Yashodadev, back to the purport, he was an incarnation of the Lord, and he spoke to his 100 sons. We'll get to that a little later, what he told them to do, which will very much connect to trying to control the senses, because ultimately our growth in spiritual life very much depends on the extent to which we can control our senses. Sense enjoyment puts us the other way. We're not, then we're falling down then. So Maharaj Yashodadev instructed his sons to follow the path of perfection by tapasya. Now, we in ISKCON, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, have our lives set up in such a way that there is tapasya. When we look at the way people who are non-devotees live, we realize we live quite different from them. They eat meat, we don't. We eat fish and eggs. Sometimes they wonder how we get our nutrition, but we don't worry about those kind of things. They just worry about that's their problem. So, sex life is for begetting children. No gambling, no intoxication. I remember one statement that was made by one of my godbrothers who was in Girinagi, he was giving a lecture. And he said his family members, he was the only devotee in his material family. And his family members watched him for a while, the way he was living, especially because of the regulated principles. They realized that a lot of things that they were doing for sense gratification that he was not doing. So one day he said, the lecturer said, they sat him down and says, we've been watching you. And this religion, you call it Christian conscious religion, the religion that you join. So we drink, you don't drink, we eat meat, fish, you don't eat those. all of these so-called delicacies. You stopped eating those things ever since you became a Hare Krishna, and you do not drink, even the lottery, you don't play, and all of this. So we've seen your life change, and we hope you're enjoying yourself. Because we don't see how, but we hope somehow this religion is making you enjoy yourself. So when he said that, he was kind of smiling, but it actually brings peace of mind, is what really happens. When we follow this, one of the byproducts, if you like, is peace of mind, following the regulated principles. You think about it, and think about doing it the other way, breaking the regulated principles, you realize you won't get much peace of mind. So it is actually to help us. Papa says it brings us to the human platform, and he backs it up by saying these things that we are being asked to stop, to satisfy the senses. If you satisfy the senses that way, you haven't done anything great. The animals do it too, but you have high intelligence to them. I have high intelligence than them. So we live animal life pretty much if we do that. So we have to be very, very careful. Srila Prabhupada puts it this way: foolish men seek after material sense pleasure as a substitute for real happiness, because real happiness comes from the soul. Srila Prabhupada says such foolish men forget that the temporary so-called happiness, temporary because this physical body is going to go. We're going to be dying, leave the body, hopefully go back to Godhead. So-called happiness derived from sense pleasures is also enjoyed by the dogs and the hogs. And we have to be very, 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 very careful to associate with devotees so that we are always in that path of devotion. One cannot live spiritual life by themselves. If you do that, you're kidding yourself, because Maya is very strong. And so if you decide to become your own defense attorney, your own prosecuting attorney, your own judge, your own jury, everything decided by me, you're going to realize that Maya has also said yes, 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 yes to some things that you really shouldn't be doing. Because Maya is that strong. And Maya is very, very, very efficient at what she does. Case in point, when Indra, the Lord of heaven, the king of heaven, got cursed by Brihaspati for insubordination, he was cursed to become a pig. He took birth as a male pig. The curse was for a period of time. At the end of that time, Lord Brahma, the Lord Brahma, came to explain to Indra in the body of a pig that it was time to go back and be king of heaven again. Indra was enjoying sense gratification as a hog and did not want to go. And he is the king of heaven. Are we the king of heaven? Look at so much enjoyment that's there. Even sense gratification in the heavenly planets. Still. The point is, people tend to get used to what they have. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is talking about. In every species of life, sense pleasure is somehow been put in there by Krishna's own arrangement and Lord Brahma's creation. In every species of life, including the human form of life, such happiness is there. That kind of happiness, so-called happiness. But the human form of life, Srila Prabhupada has repeated, is not meant for such cheap happiness. It's meant for attaining unlimited happiness and eternal happiness by spiritual realization, by bhakti. And the spiritual realization is obtained by tapasya, undergoing voluntarily the path of penance and abstinence from material pleasure. So that's what he's put in his purport. And says those who have been trained for that, they are called dhira. Dhira statana mukhyati. Dhira, men who are, or men and women, undisturbed by the senses. So Maharaj Yashodadev propagated this mission. So Dhira, Srila Prabhupada in a lecture on this particular text, he was saying Dhiranam. Dhiranam means sober and gentle. Sober, gentle. So then the first thing that comes, how do I become sober? How do I become gentle? Well, let's start with what sober is not and gentle is not. So what's the opposite of sober and what's the opposite of gentle? A person who is what? Agitated. And flies off the handle in a way, in the manner of speaking in this, gets agitated, gets upset easily. A sober person is one who is a person that takes a break mentally before they deal with situations. Now, to take a break mentally, think through before you do something. Think through means the intelligence comes out and says, but is what I'm going to do a good thing to do? Now, that can happen in a flash. Of course, the mind thinks quickly. The intelligence also thinks, brings answers quickly. So being sober is one of the ways in which we can control our senses. Being gentle. Gentle doesn't always mean that physically that you're gentle, how you do things only. That's part of it. But the words that you use to speak are words that should be respectful. A person that's respectful is a gentle person. A person that's tolerant is a gentle person. A person that cares about the feelings of others, empathetic, is a gentle person. So these are things that we can practice, using kind words. We've also been told, sometimes when you heard that, the first time when I heard that, I had to think twice about it before I realized, listen, this is correct. This is in fact what we should be about. And what is it? Don't spend so much time talking about the negative things. Yes, it will come to the mind, but don't spend so much time talking about it. If you talk about it, then you're doing something about it, or you're expressing to someone who can do something about it. Otherwise, there's no point flooding the mind with negative things. The positive things you should talk about. So if we do that, what happens? We will train the mind. This is Papa said the mind has to be trained. You will train the mind to think positively. And if you think positively, you feel good physically also. Even helps the health. So the less inclined we are to talk about even things that are true, but negative, the less inclined we are, the better off we'll be. So keep those things that are negative out of the speech. When it comes to the mind, yes, it's true. If you know it to be true, pray for that person. Remember, praying is also one of the 9 ways of serving. Pray for that person. The other day, His Holiness Chandrasekhar Maharaj, in Reading, Pennsylvania, giving a lecture, and he came to questions section. And he said, there's one thing that devotees maybe, from what he knew, tend not to do much of, and that is praying. But praying specifically for the welfare, spiritual welfare of family members and spiritual welfare of other people they know. He says we should do that. We should do that. It should be part of our service also, because the more we serve others, the more Krishna will be pleased with us. So we've been praying for the welfare, and every prayer that's said is heard. Prayer is good wishes in that sense, for the other person. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj also said, let me think of nothing but the best for my worst enemy. The best situation for my worst enemy. That's the best prayer you can. Not worst enemy in terms of of you not liking them, but you know not being liked by them. The body is not supposed to have enemies. But sometimes some people are so agitating, you have to keep some distance to keep them from being more offensive, because aparad means that, you know, devotional life being ruined. And so in that sense, but even that, let me think of nothing but the best for my worst enemy, a person that hates me the most. Think the best for them. Pray for the best for them. And if you pray and your prayer gets heard, well, that person is getting improved, right? And if they improve, then they won't give you too much trouble mentally anyway. So there's an advantage that comes to you also from, you know, comes to me if I do that, comes to you if you do that. So Srila Prabhupada says, Hira, Soba. There are two kinds of people in this world, Srila Prabhupada says. One is Dira, the other one is Adira. Adira means almost animal. They cannot control their senses. So the majority of people in the world not only cannot control their senses, but they have been convinced that the occupation outside of work is enjoying the senses. So they don't even try to control the senses. And of course, so much is happening that's actually negative from this activity. The person that controls the senses also thinks that they are the body. They go together. Of course, the body is where the senses are. So to enjoy senses means I'm the body and I have to satisfy my body. And that's the way we do. So one who can control the sense, he's called Dira. The Papa give an example. Krishna. When Krishna in Mahabharata was elected as the presiding personality for the Rajashiya Yagya, in Indraprastha, Maharaj Yudhishthira, after Indra helped Kandaprastha to be changed to a wonderful city, and Maharaj Yudhishthira was crowned as the king, Rajashiya sacrifice was made. Now, there was a situation. One personality that defied, that choice. So, of course, this is one of the, when you go back to it, this is the doorkeepers and, when they came, I don't want to go too far back, but Krishna was being insulted. Literally, Krishna was being insulted at the Rajashiya sacrifice. Of course, the person paid for his life later on because, he was told, you don't do that. You do not do that. But the important point, the reason we bring it up here is he was called an ordinary man. He was called a woman hunter. How can he be elected? So, Bhishma, and here's the most important point. When I heard Prabhupada talk about it, I was actually I was surprised. But then he brought it up. He said, at that time, Bhishma, who was the most celebrated brahmachari, he had sworn to stay brahmachari for the sake of his father, marrying Satyavati. He had never accepted any wife. He had no connection with any woman. So he stood up and spoke on behalf of Krishna. He said, I am celebrated throughout the whole world as brahmachari. But if I would have been in the position of Krishna, dancing with young girls, Krishna can dance with young girls and he doesn't get agitated. But Bhishma said, I would have been agitated. I admit. Therefore, Krishna, he is Dhira. Therefore, he should be elected. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead shows so many qualities, of course. And we're talking about his situation as Maharaj Rishabha. So, another point in here is about Urukrama. Sri Prabhupada explained the Supreme Personality of Godhead being described as Urukram, which is in the text. It means one who acts very wonderful things, which is not possible for an ordinary human being. Krishna is also that way. So he wanted to show the real path of life. Maharaj Rishabhadev, he was king, he was emperor of the world, and so he instructed. And that is in Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, text 1. Tapo Divyam Putraka. The whole text is Vishabhu Vacha, Nayam Deho Deha Bhajam Niloke, Kashtan Kaman Ahate Vid Pujam Ye, Tapo Vidyam Putraka Yena Satpam, Sudyet Yasmad Brahma, Sokyam Twanantam. The translation. Lord Ishabadev told his sons, my dear boys, of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification, which is even available for dogs and hogs that eat stew. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. The divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal, blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which continues forever. And that was the first statement made by Lord Ishabadev. He had 100 sons, and the first son was Maharaj Bharat, who after Lord Ishabadev became the emperor. So he says, we should not use this human form to work hard just for sense gratification, because the dogs and the hogs also work hard in their own way for sense gratification. It's there for the human body. It's there for the animal body. It's not worth it. It doesn't take us anywhere. But in terms of, instead of doing that, go through penance, go through austerity, chant Hare Krishna repeatedly, chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Even if it doesn't feel good, take it as your austerity and keep chanting, because the sweetness is there and Krishna will change at some point for us being persistent in chanting and persistent to chant in the quality that's been described to us. Chant from the heart, chant in desperation. Sometimes we don't feel desperate. Well, we are in the material world. It's a word of anxiety. And anxiety should be good reason for desperation. Therefore, when we chant in desperation, we chant so that this would be, by the Lord's permission and guidance from Guru, the last body that we take that is impure spiritually. Whatever that goes on, the rest of the bodies, if we are to come to the material world, serve Krishna. If you go back to the spiritual world, to serve Krishna, we serve purely. We should try hard for purity. By such activity, penance and austerity, one's heart is purified. That's what Maharaj Shabbadev is saying. And when one attains this position, then the eternal blissful life, which is transcendental to material happiness and which is ever eternal, which is goes on forever, that will be ours, our rightful, sometimes put it a rightful claim. Some of the things, sense gratification we've talked about, to summarize now, we should detest it. Maharaj Shabbadev goes into details. We should tolerate the duality of pleasure and pain. That's the way the world is. They come, they go, just like summer and winter. They come, they go. We are in a miserable condition. As long as everybody goes through anxiety, anxiety is a miserable condition. So we should try to realize that. Inquire about the truth, which is what we're doing now. Give up endeavor for sense enjoyment and engage in the service of the Lord. Keep hearing about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and chant and glorify the Lord. After all, his pastimes are the most wonderful. There are no pastimes of the Lord that comes near. I mean, there's no pastimes anywhere that comes near the pastimes of the Lord. And if we look at the material things that they try to substitute for us in the movies and so on, they don't come close. They do not come close. If you keep reading about the pastimes of the Lord, you're not going to want to hear anything else. You read Gaga Samhita, there's a whole lot of pastimes there, and absolutely, absolutely astounding. The Lord is incredibly incredible. And the devotees that relate to him, one pastime after another, you actually really, 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 get into it. It just gets right to the heart. And so if we give up enmity, we shouldn't have enemies, and pray for our enemies and try to control our anger. That's one sense we have to try to control. And lamentation. Then little by little, Krishna would help us. We take the instructions of Guru seriously, Krishna will help us. And so, little by little, we will be able to control the senses, give up the false ego, and then we're on our way back to Godhead. Hare Krishna. So, I'm going to read the text again, Maharaja Shabade, incarnation, and then, open up at that time for comments and questions. So, English translation. The eighth incarnation was King Rishabha, son of King Nabi, and his wife Mary Devi. In this incarnation, the Lord showed the path of perfection, which is followed by those who fully control the senses. And those people are honored by all others of life. Now, I'll say one more thing. They are honored by all others of life. This doesn't mean that we should look forward to that our senses are controlled, therefore we should be honored, because that will be the false ego, actually. In all humility, even when you're honored, we should give the credit to Guru and Gauranga rather than ourselves. Hare Krishna. Jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna, Parkshit, prabhu. Thank you so very much. What a wonderful class. And reminding us of that important principle of sense control. Let's open it up for some questions, if there are any. By show of hands or in the chat, devotees can ask. I wanted to ask you a question while we're waiting on any other devotees. Yeah. You mentioned the idea about prayer and how we should pray for the spiritual welfare of others, our family members, friends, even and devotees. So sometimes, I guess, I know for myself, I get confused a little bit about this, and I guess it's not confusing that the purpose is understood, but how to go about doing it. Like sometimes we hear about, let's chant around for so and so. Somebody's going through a hard time, so I'm going to chant an extra round for them, or I'm going to dedicate a round, or like sometimes like somebody sponsors a Sunday feast because or a particular event, and they say I want to sponsor it because maybe I lost a loved one or something like that. And everybody, sometimes we're kind of in a conundrum. What are we praying for? Exactly, for that person. Because we want to make it as personal as possible. We don't want to be like, okay, we're just going to pray, Haribo. Like you want to really make a heart connection. So to really understand what exactly we're praying for and how we should pray. Could you give us insight into that?
Hare Krishna. Very, very good question. What has come to me in situations when I've had to pray for someone else, if there were particular things that, let's just talk about someone who's not comfortable with me. And that happens. I have my share. So anyway, when I heard this from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, do nothing but think the best for my worst enemy. The first thing that happened to me was I began to feel better inside. Because you see, if I'm thinking something good, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to be good for them. But actually what happens, and I will get to your question because that's not the answer directly. What happens is if you stop thinking negatively about them, negatively not because you want something bad to happen, but you hear they come to your mind, and then you remember some things that they did to me, and I'm talking about myself now, me that were bad. You see, and I feel uncomfortable about that. Mm-hmm. What it does, that advice by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj is one that changes the mind immediately. All right, so they did this. All right, but there are faults with this person. Well, there are faults with me. They're not pure, I'm not pure. So if I try to help them become purer, then Krishna will be pleased with me, because I also know that the more I help other people, the quicker my own devotion improves. This is true. The more we help others, the better our devotion becomes, and the better devotee we become. So it's to our advantage to pray for them to become a better devotee. So actually, my prayer normally is, it is twofold. Sometimes I'll talk about both of them. That the person, if there are specific things that are bad about that person, they projected it on me, for example, and that's why I'm kind of staying away. I'm being careful, and talking with them, but talk a little shorter. I mean, and everything just not spend too much time with them, because I don't know how things are going to wind up. We may mention those particular things, the faults. That Krishna or dear Guru, dear Guranga, please help improve myself and this person also. So our relationship will be better. Now, that's the general prayer. We can have specific things that we can take from that. Or the other thing too that I add to it is what lessons we're supposed to learn, because there are no accidents. What lessons we're supposed to learn, please make it possible for me to see. And that's where it gets very interesting. Sometimes it may be faults from us that we didn't notice where in fact there, and the other person was uncomfortable with us for our faults. You have to be humble to even understand it that way. But we tend to see the other person's faults. Therefore, all right, so if it's there, help so that I myself would unplug from any negative thinking when I think about the things that happened to them or happened to me because of them. And there are things that are happening to them also. A person that thinks negatively, a person that acts negatively is not a happy person. They're really not. While they can pretend all they want. They're not a happy person. A person that criticizes a lot is not going to be a happy person, because criticism itself is bad. You can't put bad things in your mind and think you're going to be a good person. It doesn't work that way. Your mind will disturb you the whole time. So that's why it comes down to thinking positively and leaving the negativity out. So think for the welfare, pray for the welfare of that person. And then the other point when you talk about is pray to become a better devotee yourself. Why? Because if I pray to become a better devotee, then it's unlikely that I will do things that will irritate other people. At least that likelihood it's reduced quite a bit, and it will keep getting reduced. So usually when I meet a sannyasi, I say, Maharaj, can you bless me to become a better devotee? I did that to many sannyasis. I mean, the first thing I ask, you have to offer obeisances. I need blessings to become a better devotee, to serve better. Hare Krishna. So I kind of went around it, but hopefully the answer is there.
Thank you, Parkshit, prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands going once.
All I will say is thank you very much, Prabhu. It's always nice to have your class on Mondays. So many things for us to ponder all week long. Just a reflection that, one of the way you explained, you said about Krishna is he's incredibly incredible. I think that He truly is incredibly incredible. And um, controlling anger, controlling our words, I think is just very important in helping us becoming better devotees. And that is what this is all about, is that we become better devotees. And I think that was a very good point, that if we become better devotees, then everything will become better. You know, everybody around us will also become better because of our association with each other.
Hare Krishna. Very important, Swami, bringing this meaning, this point out. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Humble pranam. Glories to
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada. Thank you
Jai.
for the class, Prabhu. And I think we need to, one of the sense control is we need to learn to be more tolerant of others. Because, you know, I have realized in all my situations, dealings with people, most of them just react quickly, and they don't know whether it is okay for them to react that way. And I think they are in a rush, or I have seen in so many situations, they may not mean it. So I guess you have to look at the deeper personality of that person before we react or respond to them. And we have to be more tolerant toward other human beings. That's what I learned. Because of this COVID and so many other situations, people are going through so much tough situations, losing their job or something else. They may say something inadvertently, you know, I mean, they may not mean it, but I guess we have to go deeper into that person, and then see they are not like that. Maybe something is happening, that's why they are reacting like that. So I think, you know, accept them for what it is and what they are, and being more tolerant of their comments or criticisms, and go on, you know, because they are not going to make you fall into the trap, but you are, you know, you can do better from looking at a situation in a different angle. So that's what I realized. And we do normally pray for others too, you know. And sometimes you say, you know, Sri Krishna, please keep them in your care, you know. I mean, show your immense blessings. They are going through something. I have always prayed for others too. You know, keep, as Drona said, we don't know what to pray for them, but said, you know better than me, you know, what they are going through. So do the best for them. You know, I mean, what I think, you know, it is best for them may not be good for them spiritually.
Yeah,
So
Krishna knows better. Krishna knows
yeah,
better.
so you just do what is best. You are looking at the situation as a Paramatma, and you know better. So look at the situation, and I wish everybody to be happy. That's all it is. No matter what, everybody deserves to go to Krishna and get the prema of Krishna and do the best. You know, I mean, we cannot be the deciding force for others because of you know, something that they are going through in life. So you know, just be, you know, I mean, don't look at it from your perspective, and let Krishna you know, get into what it is, and let him decide what is best for them. So that's what I would conclude. Thank you for you know, giving us a nice class. Thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna's mercy
Hare
goes,
Krishna.
so it was tolerance and compassion, basically,
Yeah.
we described. Okay, next.
Hare
Hare
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice class. I
Krishna
always like
mercy
your
goes
class because you tell the subject in a very interesting, telling the stories, and you also cover the yeah, let's cover the about using mild words and how to control our senses. And today I learned about not to get anger, being calm, and
it takes practice. It takes practice, but you can do it. It's possible.
yeah, but sometimes I don't like able to analyze whether I'm thinking positive or negative, and suddenly the mind gets uncontrolled, and sometimes negative things enter, and I am not able to analyze very quickly.
One
So,
of the things, very, very important point. One of the, as you were speaking, then this thought came to mind right away. It's my god sister that who was a counselor. That this is actually physical practice, literally, to not react negatively to situations, just jump by the situations. She would take a breath, and a long breath, just to hold the mind jumping into a reaction and saying things that they might regret later on. He'll take a breath, and within that breath, we just think. Now, of course, breath is just not enough. If you say breath, with taking that long breath, even if in your mind, if you say Hare Krishna, which means you're appealing to Krishna, then the chances are very high that because you've sought help and you caught yourself from reacting too quickly, then the chances are very high that how you'd approach it would be better than if you had reacted immediately.
oh, okay, very nice. Yeah,
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I
Yeah.
have also a small thing to say. To be
Okay.
a tolerant, how to get a tolerance? Because just being a human, being a normal person, how far and like we need to meditate. Yes, we need to do chanting, which is a good practice. But on a regular basis, how can you just keep bearing if somebody is mad at you or angry at you for no good reason, and then you actually try to be a patient, try to keep that patience, and then not react.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Very good question. Tolerance does not mean you don't say anything at all. Sometimes you don't, but sometimes you can. And when you say some things, sometimes you can say things to actually turn the person's mind around, especially if they're being negative towards you. Sometimes even just saying, God bless you, in response to something that somebody has said that's negative, can throw them way off. And to let them, their minds realizing if they are actually a person that's, has some goodness in them, but at the time they think they have a point and they're coming against you in more the passion, and they did not, control themselves, and then they said some things, and now your feelings are hurt. If you take that deep breath, say Hare Krishna in your mind, and if you can open your mouth and tell them God bless you. Let me actually talk about one situation that happened this past Friday. It was only 3 days ago. So the temple president in Harrisburg, who's my wife, asked the devotees earlier to come on Friday to help to clean up. So quite a few devotees showed up. A good many of them were new devotees, which was very nice that they were willing to actually come do service. Cleaned out the place. There were, this is the temple, come clean out the temple. So some things were to be disposed of, but we opened the door, one side door, and then we put them out in the meantime. Some devotees put them out. I went outside and I saw it. And
Wow.
Hare Krishna, the neighbor who doesn't like us very much saw that the neighbor, which is the temple is in a residential place, it was a church that was bought by devotees. So he started complaining, and nobody was around at that time on the side of the temple building. I was the only one that heard it. And I'm thinking in my mind, but we're trying to clean up, and this person is going to start making negative comments because we put something outside the temple property, not his property. And he's already complaining, and he's complained more than once, so many times. So, and I knew of him, of that, but this is the first time I heard from him directly. And I did not want to keep quiet. But I also did not want to say things to make him upset, because I saw his mood. When he said those things, he never used a word that was like directly insulting, even though it was complaining. And then he just like, lifted his hands up like in frustration. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, well, so he likes things tidy, but he still can't tell the temple what to do, though. And that's not right. It's not his right to do that. So then I didn't take a deep breath, but I just paused and listened to him. When he finished, then I calmly told him, okay, sir, so you have property, we have property, right? So you take care of a property and we'll take care of a property, okay? We'll take care of yours, we'll take care of ours, okay? So don't worry about telling us what to do about ours. We are taking care of a property. We have a lot of cars around here, which means people are here. And as soon as I said it that way, he never responded. He went back to his house and he shut the door. So I tried not to insult him, but basically tell him that he really is a mild way of phrasing. You don't have a right to comment about somebody else's property, how they should keep it. Even though you may, by your standards, think that at the time, it's not good to have something out there. But the fact is, he didn't know what was going on. I didn't think he even realized that we were cleaning up the temple. And he made the comment, so I just said, okay, you take care of yours, we'll take care of ours. You want clean? Okay, you clean your place, we'll clean our place. And I said, okay, that's what I really want to tell you. So that's how we left it. Now, was this the best way? I don't know. You yourself may think that maybe in a way it was kind of reminding him in a non-subtle way. Some of you may think it's subtle, some of you may not think it's subtle. I was just thinking, I'm not going to come at him with a word that insults. That was the first thing that I was thinking. So sometimes pausing a little bit and saying Hare Krishna, Krishna will help you with the right words to come out that are not insulting. But you yourself should also think, no matter what I say, I shouldn't say something that would agitate them. That's important. Now, I said it that way because that guy had complained a lot. That's why I said, take care of your place, we take care of our place, because he's complained so much. So I was trying to get an end to this, if you could, somehow, if it would work. I don't know. You can't support, you can't deal with other people's reactions. You can only do what you, say what you can say, and how it comes across, hopefully it works. So that's the situation that we have to face this Friday. Very, very, very different situations come up. And if you just pause to ask for help by just saying Hare Krishna, I find that it sometimes works nicely and you don't come up with words that are maybe too jabbing and not mild. And sometimes by saying Hare Krishna too, Krishna will just keep our mouth shut. Then we won't say anymore. To calm me, you can say God bless you and not say anymore. Sometimes, that also helps with our sense control. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy.
Very, very important lesson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Parkshit, Prabhu, for giving that to us today.
Krishna's
thank you to all the devotees for coming on today and participating in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And our gratitude is always to Parkshit Prabhu for spending Monday morning with us. We invite the devotees to come this evening for the Bhagavad Gita happy hour with His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu. That begins at 5 o'clock. We wish you all a very happy Krishna conscious day. We'll see you soon. Hare Krishna.
Have a good day. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Pataram Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna to everybody. Jai.
Jai.
Jai.